So welcome to today's Peertum webinar. Today we're talking about writing excellent role descriptions. And we've noticed that in a lot of organizational transformations and organizational change, there's this common pattern emerging to split entire jobs into smaller units, things like called roles, actually. And in role-based work, there's kind of this art form that comes out and saying like how there's so many decisions to be made in writing and grouping roles. So if you take this big monolithic job position and split it into further pieces, you have to ask, okay, how granular should that be split? Should one person, do you split it into 50 different roles which represent every single task they're doing? Is it, I don't know, just halving your job into two? How detailed should the responsibilities be, or how much information needs to be in there? What's the right level of description? And also, there are questions about how those can be assigned and how you group them together and structure them. And all of this are just open, decisions that you have to make if you're going to go down the path of trying to change into a more flexible and fluid way of working through roles. And because of all these open questions, oftentimes people will go and seek help from those who've gone through role-based transformations. Yeah, Nina and Jaka do this all the time. So they are very familiar with, they live and breathe roles and describing roles. Of course, they're working on a bunch of other transformational tactics as well, but up in their quiver is a role mapping workshop, which is a way that they go taking teams into their structure, into how you can think about dividing work into roles and get to the essence of what should be documented and shared across the team. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to welcome them. They're going to walk us through their method, and we tried to make this a bit interactive today. Nina will explain how. And yeah, following that, we'll have a question and answer. So you can kind of bring all of your burning questions and difficulties to them. I think it's a great resource to have them to answer this. And then I'll just give a kind of quick primer to take that theory into practice in peerdom. What might you do in order to take that work that you have from a role mapping workshop and put it into everyday practice? So that's going to be our hour, or 55 minutes now. And without further ado, Nina and Jaka, welcome.
Thank you, Nathan. Greetings, everybody, and welcome. We welcome you from Slovenia. So together we have Nina. Tia also is with us, our colleagues, and myself, Jaka. As I mentioned earlier, we are from Slovenia. We have a small new ways of working studio, implementing new ways of working in Slovenia in the Adriatic region. We work approximately with 5 to 6 clients simultaneously. So there's a lot of role-based leadership and roles that we implement, and we need to very oftenly check. What we do are basically implementing new ways of working using Randenhay as a model, Semco style. We are also very well connected with corporate rebels. We also know the NER approach. So basically we're using different approaches when we implement something like that to a company. And basically we implement this to the companies who want to, let's say, have less hierarchy and more cross-functional and high-performing teams. Today, you're going to follow us through a Miro board. So Nina is going to share it with you in the chat, and please join us there. So you're going to have all the post-it notes and everything, so you can ask the questions all the time, and then we are trying to answer them. But of course, if you will have any questions in between, just don't bother, just stop us, and we can discuss it further and make a little bit of a rabbit hole look. So Nina, please take it over from here.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Jaka. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. So one of the things, yes, we do transformations, but we also do workshops. So bear with us, because this will be more like a workshop style. I will share my screen. You have the link in the chat. If you want to join us, please click on the link and join us in the board. If you don't want to, there's no problem. I will share the board. You will see everything, and you can put your questions in the chat. So either way, whatever works for you better. So, okay, since I'll just wait for a couple of seconds so that I see if everybody's here or if you're uploaded here. So this is our board today. And what we will do today is that, first of all, we'll have a bit of a check-in, because always when we have workshops, I like to see what kind of vibe or with what kind of energy you are here. And then we want to hear you first before we tell you more about our procedure. So maybe just one thing that I want to elaborate. I think that there's different approaches in designing roles. So this one is one that we use, that we modify constantly. And this is kind of like an ongoing process. It never ends, it evolves like the company should evolve. So it's not like you do it one time and then that's it, because new things happen, situations happen. So this is something that has to be revised a couple of, I don't know, once per 6 months or anything like that. So, okay, let's jump in. Before we go into job roles and what you know about them, I will just bring everyone to me in 3, 2, 1. And I would just like to see what kind of energy you're bringing today. So here, just put your name on one of the sticky notes. So you write on the sticky notes, you just click twice if you don't know Miro, and just put the sticky note whatever mood you are right now, for example. So let's see what kind of people we have today, so that I know if I'm over enthusiastic that I have to tone down, or if you're like me and need a cup of coffee because you were ironing in the night, then I need to be more bubbly. Great. So if anyone has any problems, technical problems with Miro or anything, please let me know. If you don't know how to use it, there's no shame in that. So just say, hey, Nina, please help me out and we'll do it. But I see that there's no problem. Okay, so I see that you'll need a lot of coffee or tea or mushrooms or anything, something to light us up. And then we have Frank and Sabine that are very in the celebration mode. I like that. I will have to borrow some of your energy. Tia is, of course, she's the Gen Z, so she has to sleep right now. She works for 8 hours. Victoria, I love that you're in the hard zone. And then we have Anna, Dustin, and Helen, that you are in the vibe. Yes, let's go. Okay, good, thanks. Awesome. Great. So let's move to the first question, or the first real check-in. We want to hear from you. So can you write down what comes to mind when you hear the term job role? So just your associations. There's no right or wrong answer. What comes to mind? Job role. What do you associate it with? So let's take 2 minutes. I'll put on some music and let's see, what do we have today? So since I'm the DJ. Okay, so let's look at your answers. Do we have any volunteers? Because they're your associations, your minds. Does anybody wants to read what you wrote down?
Will I start? Is that okay?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Frank. So just read the post-it notes.
I think I started with responsibilities.
Yep, just go.
Every role has certain responsibilities, certain accountability too. So someone else putting that down already. Skills is, I wrote down skills, and to me it's also a focused bit of work. So it's not like a broad function, but it's more focused for me.
Okay. Can you just read the rest of the post-it notes?
Let's see. Certain role I need to fulfill in my job. Well, of course, accountability. My work is defined by different job roles. Flexibility. Different hats. Ownership, commitments. Requires personal initiative. Responsibilities in evolution. Portfolio, a collection of responsibilities that describe accountability for repeated work. Outcomes, accountabilities, vulnerability, flexibility, resilience, multiple stewardship, limited fixed mindset, and opportunity for growth. And what should I do to contribute?
Okay, awesome. I see that we have an educated crowd already here, so we have to speed up the process, Jaka. Okay, awesome. So this is something that we ask our how to say, people that are in the transformation together with us, because the first part that we discuss what's the difference between job roles and job titles and what's all the fuss about. And I will talk more about it later, but it's very important to co-create the process. So just like we are doing the workshop together with you, we have to have a clear meaning what's the difference when we're talking about roles. And a lot of the times, we have different sets of how we see accountabilities, or what's a role for me or for Jaka. So this is the first thing that we have to do to align what we mean with the job roles. Okay, thanks very much. And now let's move to the second one. Do you know any organizations that uses job roles, not job titles? Maybe can you write them down? Let's see. I'll take 2 minutes and I'll put another music. Okay, awesome. I see that you know a lot of companies. So I don't know all of them that are written here, but I would say that they're probably progressive, since a lot of companies that go into, I don't know, self-management or progressive organizational style abandon titles and go to roles. So of course, VC, Voice, Semco Style Institute, Pozderec, I don't know how to read that. CoNCAD, maybe I read it wrong. Peerdom, of course, BNC, Indie, Tier 1 Performance, yes, Holacracy and Sociocracy organizations, Sutton Community Farm, Maiden, Rebel Energy UK, Greenpeace, just a second, Loico, yes, teams that buy Roche, Neue Narrative, Sociocracy, of course, you have the whole list in Peerdom. Freunde, I know that it's Freunde, but I don't know the first word. Corporate Travels, Infocaster, Concept 7, and PTHR. So it happens that more and more companies are abandoning titles, or that's not quite sure. Maybe I will just have to elaborate this a bit more. They abandon titles on the inside, and a lot of them still use titles on the outside, because a lot of the times you have, I don't know, a customer or somebody who says, I want to talk to, I don't know, that and that person by the title. So in order to handle the confusion, we had an experiment with one of our customers, and I will tell you more about it, where we said, okay, we don't have a normal job title. We said that they will be a digital wizard, and when we were using it, the description and everything was the same, but the title was digital wizard, and because it was not digital manager, we got only, I don't know, 3 people that applied. And when we said, okay, this is not enough, and we just changed the title to digital marketing manager, and we got 40 plus people that applied. So that's because the entire world, or the majority of this orange world, is still in titles, and it's easier to operate. So you have to navigate the system so that you don't confuse the clients too much with that. So when we're talking about positions and roles, why is there a problem? I know I will not bother you because you are here. You probably know that more than I do. But the problem that I have with job positions is that we take it as our own. This is something that our identity is linked to that. So this is mine. And because it's mine and it comes with certain, I don't know, a corner office or a bigger salary or something like that, it's a lot harder to let go. Also, because it's just mine, it's easier for the person to, how to say, not really do what the job title should, job positions should be doing, because it's just me. And there's no share accountability, because in job roles, this is not just my role. It can also be Jaka's role and Tia's role. And when the responsibility of the role changes, either one of us can say, okay, so let's look at it, this, we should add this responsibility, this accountability to us. Do we all agree? And this is something that's like kind of negotiation between all of us. This is not just something that's mine, but this is something that we see in reality, that a lot of the times people are really used to of their titles. Like I said, it's part of their identity, and it's not easy to let it go. So that's why we're not radical when we go into transformation, and we don't say there's no titles anymore. We just say, look, your job title doesn't define, or your job position doesn't define everything that you do. And the problem that we have is that you can have the same job title for 10 years and you can do completely different tasks and have completely different responsibilities that you had 10 years ago, and nobody really knows what you're doing, and even you cannot apply to different kind of roles. And of course, then we have problems with talent acquisition and everything that comes along. So job roles help us to keep up as a company, as an organization, what's really needed, and what kind of knowledge, what kind of services, what do customers really need from us? Because job positions or job titles, this is something that's done, I don't know, in a legal matter, and it's reviewed, if you are lucky, in every 2 years. But I assure you it's not, because this is just something that has to be on the paper. So a lot of the times when we are talking with the people, okay, so what do you really do? We see that from that job position and the task or the accountabilities that they should be doing, actually in the section other, or whatever the manager tells you, is the majority of work, which is like very, very gray area. So that's why it's different. So a job position is one person, one job position, and role, it can be multiple people. And some roles, of course, can be rotating roles. And some of them, of course, cannot be, because, I don't know, for example, I cannot be a programmer at Peerdon because I don't know a thing about C++ or Python or anything else, but I can be a contributor or a facilitator or anything else. So again, I won't tell more because you probably know more about that. And this is one of your pictures. I'm sure that you are well aware of this, but this is like a really beautiful representation. How maybe the job position is something that just gives you an illusion that you have control or that everything is written down, but reality is very different. Reality is like, it's in the roles. We do this a bit and this and that. And this is something that really defines us more than just what's written in a job title. So when we are designing roles, we're talking about that every role should have a name. It should have a purpose. So why do we need that? It should have a list of accountabilities and tasks. I know that some people don't list tasks, but in our opinion, like we saw when we were designing this process, is that listing accountabilities is a lot harder than just listing roles, so listing tasks. So a lot of the times we start with listing tasks, and based on the task, we design the list of accountabilities. And of course, when you have a role, there are certain decisions that you can make in that role. So this is linked to the collaborative decision-making material. But like I said before, this is a process. This is something that it takes, I don't know, maybe a month or two to get into the first draft, because it's not enough that I just write what I think all my roles are. Jaka has to do this, Victoria has to do this, Tias has to do this. And then we have to align, because maybe one role that I will say is a facilitator, Tia will say is a moderator, but actually is the same. So again, we're in the aligning part. So that's why this is a process that's not one-time workshop. It's not done just, in a day. It takes a lot of time and a lot of finesse, because the problems that we have is, okay, so this responsibility, is this in this role or is in another role? So a lot of communication. Okay, what do you think? What are the possible benefits of using job roles? So I listed a few of them, but do you know any other that you would say? What would you say that's good about having roles, about using roles for organization, for a person, for a company, for a team? Okay. So I see that you found a lot of benefits, and a couple of them, Jaka will tell you more why they are so important for the new generation, so the Gen Zs. So I will just read them out since I have a shy crowd, but if somebody else wants to, please let me know. So the benefits that you see using job roles and not job positions or job titles, clarity, people aren't working for a company for life 20 years plus anymore. Yes, actually, the relationship between employee and employer is crumbling. It's more like I'm working simultaneously for more different companies, and I'm in charge of my own social security. So this is something that's very, very different than it was in the past. Different career growth compared to traditional climbing the corporate ladder. Awesome. Yes, I can progress, and not in a vertical manner, but in horizontal, and Jaka will tell you more. Get recognized and appreciated. I love the phase letting go you said earlier. For orgs to be and stay adaptable, roles help us stay flexible. Yes. Metrics growth paths. Yes, not ladders. Distributed authority forces us to remain relational in our influence. Awesome. Flexibility and resilience. Receive more focused feedback. Uncover redundancies, overlapping work. Awesome. Identify and use unused talent skills. Yes, because even though I'm a psychologist who doesn't know that, I don't know, I have a new talent, I don't know, TikToks or something like that. So here it's visible. Clarity of boundaries, less conflict, uncover redundancies, I already said that, and better alignment with talent and work, contributed to work where it matters most, ability to grow outside of the predefined category. Awesome. So there are a couple of benefits, but it's not all rainbows, unicorns, and sunshines. What do you think are the setbacks or the drawbacks that you have when you are using job roles? So what do you think about it? Maybe the process, the roles. Some things are not, it's not, everything is not shiny. So let's see. Yeah, there are a couple of drawbacks, especially in the beginning when you are designing the transition from job titles to job roles. Of course, it's easier if you're, I don't know, a startup and from the beginning, this is how you do things. But still, it's very incorporated in our culture and the way, how we measure success actually as a company or as a society. So this is something that we have to be aware. So the drawbacks, risk of burnout, taking on multiple roles, need for a different salary model. Yeah, challenge when working with traditional organization, additional complexity, one label per person becomes a group of labels. We find that beginning role-based, that being role-based is actually less clear, it's more complicated. And that requires more clarity and time to onboard. It requires a lot of unlearning. Yes, true. Sometimes we fall into the same trap of it's not my role. We have to remind ourselves that it's people over roles when it comes to the getting things done. Too much flexibility, lack of clarity, too many roles, documentation, shifting core work to documenting how you split it, scattered attention, over subscription, compensation comes under question, time management, too much time is spent on that rather than working. You have to define them. Takes time and effort, a long time. Diffusion of responsibility, it can happen. Difficult to let go of my job. Roles need to be frequently reviewed, and difficult to explain externally. So a lot of the things that we said before. Although, yes, there are a couple of drawbacks. We see that this is the future that we are going, and softwares like PeerDump help us to be more aligned and quick in doing that. But maybe why is it important? So Jaka, if you will take on from here.
Yeah, of course. So last year we also presented this on a global Scrum gathering where we were talking about the transformation that we did. Okay, so basically career growth is explained like this. So when we were talking, there's a lot of Gen Z companies that we transformed already, and McKinsey did a very good survey and basically it was a survey basically based on what makes Gen Z tick, and they went to 4 different categories. First was basically compensation, the second was career development, workplace flexibility as a third, and then the purpose as a fourth. And of course, when we are talking with Gen Zs and the others that are coming in big companies, we know that basically vertically you cannot basically grow by the hierarchy. It's impossible. In I don't know, in big companies like Bayer or Roche that were mentioned earlier, sorry for being so direct, but some people need to die in order for you to become a sales manager or something within a country, right? So for Gen Zs, it's really important to understand that basically they can still grow in a salary way, and in their basically in the whole thing that they are doing, in all the competencies and everything, by growing horizontally. And this is how we just explained to them. So basically having like a basic sales competencies as a sales role, and then just creating new roles with new competencies and tasks that you have. So this is something that they understand, because here the idea is that you cannot work with, you know, when Gen Z is like a generation that is the most basically played out generation, because I'm going to be I'm going to deep dive a little bit in that, because they grow into the most marketed area ever known right now to us. Basically, they went to the university with the promise that they're going to be middle manager after they came out. Of course, they also went to do the masters and everything to basically seal that. And then when they came without any experiences to a job, they of course claim to be middle managers or managers or something. There's no space to them. And that's why, and of course, there's a lot of this also happening in a macro way, meaning that basically the salaries are still very, very low. I don't know, buying I don't know, an apartment or something is right now, the prices are very, very high, so the distance is too high for them. But right now we know that Gen Zs we are trying to basically employ, and the problem is that corporations and of course companies have a problem, because they need to bring them and give them something, but they cannot bring them into the hierarchy. So this is why we use roles also for that. I'm going to explain how we do it. So let me just bring you all here. I'm sharing right now the screen, but I'm also going to bring you everyone to me. So how we do it is basically we start with the customer centricity. So as Nina mentioned earlier, and I know that you're all familiar with that, we don't believe in hierarchy. We don't believe in this basically system that was produced and created 100 years ago. We know that already that things changed rapidly in the last 15 years with new cell phones and smartphones and stuff like that. So we need to be more customer centric. And when we start talking about that, this is also something that is well known to people who understand the NER approach, or maybe they understand also what corporate tables are doing and the other organizations. So we put customers, employees, and the organization as is, and of course the planet, and of course let's say the surrounding, the ecosystem where we are, basically the city or the country where we are, in the center of what we are doing. And then we create cross-functional teams around that. So what that means that basically we need a separate role that is going to take care also of the customer needs, of the needs of the employee, of the needs of the organization where we are right now, as some kind of governance of the whole system, and of course for the planet, or basically for the country where we're living. So how we do that? We start with the competence metrics. I don't know if you're familiar, but this is basically something that we learned from Management 3.0 from Jürgen Appello. So basically, we write down everything. So we said to the team that is basically, let's say, customer-facing team is a supporting team. I don't know, it's creating something they have like an objective, what they need to accomplish. And then we ask the team directly, okay, what we need to do in order to fulfill that and make it maybe as with a wow effect. And they start writing down the tasks, and we say, okay, what we need to do in order for our customer to be satisfied, to maybe refer us to other customers, what we need to do. And then we write down everything in one Excel sheet, right, or Google Doc. And then we have basically 4 preferences that they need to basically just check. And first is, I know this thing and I want to do it. The second thing, I know this thing and I don't want to do it anymore. The third status is, I don't know the thing, but I want to learn it. And the fourth status is basically, I don't know nothing about this and I don't want to learn it. And once basically we pile it up, it looks like this. So we have like these competence metrics, and then we see we see people who are basically doing something, but they are fed up and they want to do something else. They know the thing, but they want to learn something else. And we know that there are also people in the team who want to learn something. So we just match them together based on what's happening with the client, of course, and what's happening with it can be a client, it can be also a project, whatever. So we use competence metrics as at the beginning to understand if we as a team are capable of do something like that, if we have the knowledge, and of course, if we have the energy. It sometimes happens that basically you have team members, they know all the things, but they don't want to do it anymore. And then we are trying to find someone new coming into the team and maybe change a little bit the whole team dynamic in that order. But this is something that gives us direct feedback from the team, so we understand what needs to be done. And then, of course, when we see the competences, then we start talking with team members to say, okay, the things that you like the most, we try to combine them in a job, basically not job, but basically a role description. And say, okay, so we call sales guy customer whisperers. And then we have, I don't know, we have analytic wizards and stuff like that. So we just call them that, and we combine different tasks based on the competence metrics together and create basic roles. What happens is that sometimes it happens that those roles cannot be unique for the whole company because it's right now based on the team. So when the team already acknowledge what it means to have roles and stuff like that, then we go and just create this new part to basically get the roles on the same level, let's say, or just to make them clear, so they are basically clear for the whole company. What happens next is, of course, when we are employing new people, we discuss with people first which roles they want to ditch. They want to say, okay, we don't want these parts to be part of our, basically, we want to hire a person who are going to do this and this and this that we don't want to do, and we want to tackle some new competencies and new knowledge. And then when the new person is coming to the team, they already know what's awaiting them. They know which role they need to fit. And what happened in previous companies that we did that in marketing agency, they needed an analytical person, someone who will do basically the whole Google tag analytics and basically the analytics of all the marketing campaigns and stuff like that with growth hacking and performance marketing and stuff like that. So, and we got a person from Deloitte. He was fed up with all of this big Excel sheets and everything. He found basically marketing is very sexy. He wanted to go there, and for him, this role was perfect. But we will put inside as a job that basically we need a project manager based on, or someone in finances. He wouldn't even enroll in this. So we got from this basically idea and from this approach, what we got was basically people from other industries to basically sign for a job that was basically in marketing in this case. Of course. Yep.
Maybe if I can just add, a lot of the times people ask us, what's with the customer centricity? Why can't we just start with, this is my job, just write down what are my accountabilities? Well, a lot of the times when you have a job, you do stuff that actually don't benefit anyone because when you're doing a transformation, some of the things that you are doing, we should remove them. We should start doing them. So here, when we turn them into, what does this segment of a customer, what do they really need? We really get a defined picture of what brings us money, actually, and not what are we supposed to do. Because if you say to manager, write down what are your tasks, well, come on, a lot of the tasks that managers in the traditional company has, they have to be removed if we want to go into self-management. So this is less painful and it makes more sense.
So there also there's a question. There are questions here about what is a simple task and how granular. So at the beginning, we leave this to the people and see how granular they want to go, and we discuss with them. Okay, this is something that it should be a role or not, because it depends. When you have it depends on the specific what's the objective that they need to fulfill for the customer or for the for the company or for the employees or stuff like that. So basically what we do is we talk with them and say, okay, what do you think is important, needs to be done? In case we lose something during the process, and we say, okay, we are creating right now the first project, we have roles, and we see that basically we left a role, or basically we left some task. We just put it in the competence metrics, just decide who wants to do what, and then just combine it together with the person. What also happens often is that people who don't want to do things still do them because there's no one else to volunteer. And what's very good in this is basically that the whole team knows that basically the guy is doing the extra mile or the girl is doing the extra mile. We know that she doesn't want to do it anymore. She stated it this already in the competence metrics, but she's saying, okay, I'm going to do this for the team for this project, but next time just let's find someone who is going to do this instead of me. And the people praise this. They like to have this transparency that someone didn't want to do something. I also have my personal story tied to that, because I was like a digital marketing manager with 45 years for a big healthcare company in Slovenia selling software around the world. And basically I was coming to my CEO and said to him, look, I'm 45 years old. I cannot be a digital marketing manager anymore. Like LinkedIn is going to make laughing stock out of me. So I need to change my career into something because digital marketing managers should be 30, 25 years old, right? And he said to me, no, but he's still working with me. And he didn't understood how to position me because he was so focused on my job title. He said, you're a marketing guy. And he didn't understand that I was like already in the corporate rebel cell. I was already doing all of the stuff with progressive organization, but he didn't know. And at my last day, when I incorporated the company with Nina, the first customer was his company. He said, okay, I'm going to enroll you back and I want to have you here. So basically you got to understand this is something that right now people need, and competence metric is something that can be really live. It can be done also, as mentioned earlier, as a team building activity. Of course, you can do it. Okay, this is the job that needs to be done. Let's create all of the tasks and let's just go out and say what I want to do and what I know and I want to do and what I know and I don't want to do anymore and stuff like that. And you just go with this kind of transparency. So then we cluster the tasks into roles, of course, and we just go basically create the customer-facing roles in case we are making a customer-facing team. Defining the roles is basically we start with the name, we define the roles' responsibilities, and of course, within that, we just also say, okay, which decisions can a person holding the role can make? So you can see it here. I'm going to bring everyone to me. I don't know if you're already following me, but basically if you have an agile team, this is not going to work. So cross-functional team, we create roles and then we discuss with people, okay, these roles, you should have this kind of responsibilities. So of course, these kind of decisions are on your role. So of course, when we are creating an organization that is based on cross-functional teams, then we say, okay, like we have right now also the governance roles, right? So if you have one team that basically should be autonomous and should be part of an ecosystem of a company. We also use, this is from the NER approach. So the NER group from Basque region, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're very progressive in that. So we also create vertical roles on people and culture. So every team should have one member who is part of the people and culture team. We also have, every team should have a member of a strategy team. Every team member should be part of, let's say every team should have a member with a role with the operations team. They're talking about how much money do we have and how we are going to, invoice to the customers and stuff like that. And every team should have one representative into the sales new client team, basically. So even though we have all the roles that needs to be done in order for one team to be self-sufficient and autonomous to do something for the client, we also need them to be part of a company. That's why we have roles as people and culture, strategy, operations, and new client, basically, or sales. So this is how we do it on our side. So do you have any questions right now? Or can we start with the Q&A? Was anything new that you heard from us?
I'm digging it. I'm kind of struck by the kind of the team-oriented way of breaking this down. I put a note in there around the when you actually go in to create your matrix and what people want or know or all those things. Do you guys see a lot of variability? I can imagine like two teams in the same organization having a very different competency. And I can imagine actually being a cool thing, a good thing for them to orient to the people in the room, not some kind of like infinity mapping exercise that just makes sense on a whiteboard.
Yeah,
Yeah, go, Jaka, go.
Go, Nina. No, just go.
It really depends, because if you have different segments of a customer, one team covers different segment of a customer than the second team, then of course you will have different responsibilities and different tasks. But some things do match, and frankly, we don't see quite a lot of variability. So like that one team would do something completely different than the other team and would need completely different set of competence in one organization, of course, if you have several ones. But what do we see is that it's very interesting how teams evolve. And when we're talking about customer centricity, this is like a live thing. Again, the company has to work like an organism. And we saw with a lot of the companies that teams start with, I don't know, one value proposition or one value of a customer segment that they want to cover. And they have knowledge, competency, skills, experiences, everything. But then when they evolve as a team and they get zero distance to the customer, because now there's no people in between them, a salesperson that's not working with them and so on. Everything's in the team. They start to refine what's really their value proposition, and their roles change. And there we see that there's more expertise, or that you can have multiple value propositions in one company, which is kind of an awesome thing.
Yeah, we have a marketing agency that was basically, we finished the transformation last year. We were like with them for a good year and a half. They jumped from 800,000 euro per year to 3.2 million in 1 year with the same amount of people. But they had 3 different teams. One team was basically a classical marketing agency. One was basically, let's say they were like trying to disrupt the classical agency with Gen Zs and vertical video and stuff like that. And the third was basically the digital marketing performance part of the agency. So we break the silos down to 3 different teams. And they had basically 3 different value propositions and 3 different competitions on the market. And then what happened was when the new client team came and said, okay, I have right now a big client who would like to join on the pitch, all the 3 teams said we. And they created 3 different pitches, and they pitched because they have all the P&Ls. Of course, every team had their own P&L and their profit and loss, and see how much money do they bring in and everything. And they basically, the whole thing, it's self-managed. They have 4 owners right now, and they're like fully on vacations. The sales guy is right now developing 3 different spin-offs, because the company itself works like this, and they evolve. They see, okay, one team right now is running low, they don't see nothing, but the other 2 are bringing up, and they're trying to regroup, create a new value proposition, and try to go to market and basically just position themselves and try with a new value proposition. And it's crazy what young people can do, because they're like 25 to 30 years old. So it's really fantastic. Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
No, thank you, Dustin. Is there anything else that? So as Nia mentioned at the beginning, we have like roles, but then it all evolves, and it's a live version. So the competence metrics is something that we look when we have problems. We go there and say, okay, what happened? Do we have this? Is this part of some kind of role? No, we forgot about this. Okay, should we create it? Was this a one-time deal, or should we create it because the whole thing that we're doing right now for the customer is too complex? And if we need to create it, we just go with the competence metrics. Go, Helen.
Hi, sorry, I had to finally unmute. Thank you, that's really interesting. I'm wondering about what happens when you have 2 people who have the same role, because you said at the beginning that people could have the same role. What happens in terms of like clarity of the boundaries between those roles? Like, do you see people say, well, that's not my responsibility, that's this other person's responsibility, and it's the same role? So like, where's the clarity of the boundary if 2 people can have the same role?
Yeah. So you when you have the same role, it's probably that you are not in the same team. So
okay.
I can be in team A, Jaka is in team B, and Nathan is in team C, and we have all the same role that we cover. We can all be digital wizards or customer whispers or anything like that. If there is a need in the team to have more than one person with the same role, that's why it's important to have the business rhythm very much aligned. So the dailies, so you have the same responsibilities, the same role, but which customers and what you do, it has to be managed on a daily basis. Because like you said, maybe I will think that you have to do it and you will think that I have to do it. That's why having a clear business rhythm and dailies where there you can see on a Kanban who's doing what, helps us see the things where I think he will do and you think that I will do. And if you do dailies on a everyday manner, this is where you don't have to put it, this is mine and from there or it's yours. We can collaborate on a daily matter. So this is not so much about having everything written down or set in stone. It's more like in the communication and in the business rhythm. So this is something that it has to be connected.
And I think most important thing is that basically we invite people to do that. So we don't say, okay, you got to do that. It's that now it's your job, but we say, okay, look, we need this. We would like to create this team, or we have right now, I know this project. Who would like to join us? So because the motivation of sharing the knowledge and doing everything should be basically people should volunteer for that, right? When we do a transformation, we say, okay, first team, this is basically the objective. We want to do a team like that. Who would like to join us? And then we see all the roles and we see that we are lacking some roles, and we say to the team members, not to the managers, to team members, please go and pick up people who you might find more suitable for this for your team to jump into these roles. So this is how we start working, because the idea that where people, let's say, go into this is my role, I can imagine this when the role-based leadership is dictated a little bit. When they say, okay, you got to do this, now you got to change 2 roles. And then people try to, secure their status quo and say, okay, this is my part and this is your part. When it's the other way around, people gather solely to do basically what needs to be done for the customer and to fulfill customer needs or the needs of the company or the needs of the people employed into the company.
We also have we have one idea inside of Peerdom, which is called a role focus. And if there are multiple role holders, you can divide the same responsibilities across some other dimension. So that might be geographical, or it might be over a topic area, or it might be over some other conceptual grouping. So it could be that, 2 people are having the exact same responsibilities, but it should be clear that their domain of influence is changing somehow. And that's of course up to how you want to do it. I think geographical is a common way, or certain customer group, or I don't know, one person is SEO and the other one is SEA or something, and it's not necessarily that's a kind of division just based on almost like Pozderec does, where they say, look, we have the same teams, but we cover different geographic regions. You could say they have the same roles or whatever, but they're just, each one is responsible for a different area. So it's the same thing, but with, split on a different dimension.
And we also encourage them to have this kind of vertical groups, gatherings to share lessons learned and basically to just develop the role itself. So this is something that we encourage all the time. Because you have different digital marketers in different teams. Right now we're doing a very big manufacturing company. You have a lot of planners and everything. So we want them to be also combined in some kind of vertical, let's say, group that they can just go and share knowledge and basically share all the stuff that they learned through the process, so they can build up the expertise even more.
And also, it's not enough, to just enroll roles. So roles have a purpose, and the purpose is to make decisions and to have autonomy in the certain area of making decisions, so that you have less meetings and that you're faster as a company. It's not like just, okay, we are going into self-management. Right now we are hierarchical, no more titles, we have roles, everything stays the same. Yeah, it's just fancy. So you still have positions, you just call them roles. So it has a purpose. Every role is linked to decision making. decisions should be, we should have the boundaries, what I can decide in order to be faster. Because if you still have roles and you have, I don't know, 12 people on the strategy, even though if they're representatives, if they are the ones deciding everything, you did nothing. So this is the tricky part, and something to be very aware of.
Super, thanks. And I think to respect time, we'll start to wind it down, but I think that's a good closing thought, which is, you can split up work into roles and slap some, great descriptions on there, but you could be just putting lipstick on a pig as well if you're not really tying it to everyday decision making. And so I really like your idea of making explicit what is your sphere of influence, like what's the blast radius of your decision making, and to try to list that out for this role. It's not just repeated tasks or responsibilities, because that's still generalized. And in some sense, what really comes down to it is when there's a decision to be made, or when some, I don't know, deliverable needs to be given or to be produced, then whose plate is that on? And it can't be on two plates at once. So I think that's really the overall goal in doing such in writing such role descriptions. And especially I like the idea of concentrating or trying to verbalize, like what decisions fall into this role explicitly and which don't. And then again, if decisions pop up that aren't described by that topography of decisions that we've described, then that needs to fall into a previous role, or a new role needs to be created to cover that. Yeah. So thank you very much for walking us through that whole role mapping workshop, and also for motivating us as to why it might be important or challenging. So thank you. I really appreciate all of your energy and participation, everyone. Thanks for coming in today, and looking forward to seeing you out there next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care,
Nice to
everyone.
meet you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.